I didn't plan on taking my best friend on vacation with my girlfriend. That was her idea. It'll be fun, Mia said, pressing her chin into my shoulder while we scrolled through hotel photos. You and Lucas haven't hung out properly in ages. And he needs a break. We all do. She looked at me with those big, gentle eyes that make chaos sound reasonable. I said yes because that's what I do when I love someone. I agree with the version of the future where we're all laughing in the same photo. Lucas and I go way back. Middle school detention buddies turned adult best men. He's that guy everyone likes within 5 minutes, easy smile, magnetic stories, the confidence of a cat that's never fallen off a fence. When Mia and I started dating, he approved of her code blue fast. She's the best thing that ever happened to you, he told me after our third double date, and clapped me on the back like he'd invented matchmaking. I believed him because it felt good to be believed in. We booked a week at a seaside hotel with the kind of blue pool that promises to fix your personality. All white rooms, bougainvillea, cheap cocktails that taste like decisions you can't return. I figured sun and sleep would cure the stress I'd been dragging around for months. Work had been eating me alive. Mia said the trip could be a reset. Lucas said he'd handle the playlist. We landed on a Sunday afternoon and the heat slapped me in the face like a relative who thinks affection is violence. We checked in, dumped our bags, and hit the pool immediately. Mia stretched out on a lounger, sun on her stomach, eyes closed. Lucas cannonballed into the deep end with the subtlety of a parade. I slid into the shallow end and felt my muscles remember that relaxing was legal. The first 2 days were perfect, or at least photogenically close. Breakfasts with pastries so flaky you could see your future in the crumbs. Afternoon naps in air conditioning that wheezed like an old man but tried its best. Mia had a list of cafes she wanted to try, Lucas had a list of jokes he wanted to road test, I had a single ambition, show up to something other than a meeting. We rented scooters, got lost above the cliffs, found a beach where the water was embarrassingly clear. At night, we played cards on the balcony. Mia would put her feet on my lap and Lucas would tell stories about the time he almost got cast in a soda commercial. They said I had unrelatable dimples. Can you believe that? Dimples discriminated against. We laughed until the neighbors tapped the wall. One night, months later, I found the hotel key card at the back of a drawer, tucked under a tangle of cables. I held it between my fingers and waited to feel destroyed. I felt steady. The memory didn't evaporate, but it didn't drown me either. It was just a thing that had happened to me, like a scar in a place only I could see if I looked in a mirror the wrong way. People think the lesson in stories like this is never bring your best friend on vacation. That's the easy lesson. The real lesson is worse and better. Love is not a plot shield. Friendship is not a bulletproof vest. If you ignore the tiny earthquakes, the big one will write its name across your life. Pay attention to who refills your water when you're not looking, who makes sure you get the seat in the shade, who puts their phone down when you're speaking. Pay attention to who can't stand not being the most important person in every room. And when the bad thing happens, and one day it might, remember that you still get to choose what happens next. I chose distance. I chose to not be the person whose heart is an open bar for people who don't pay. I chose to trust my own eyes even when they show me something I don't want to see. I still get sad. I still get angry in tiny, embarrassing flashes, passing a pool, catching a whiff of Mia's perfume on a stranger, hearing a song Lucas once overplayed on a road trip. But mostly, I get up, make coffee, text my mom, go to work, and build a life that doesn't require anyone else's permission to feel real. Sometimes, in a quiet moment, I picture that balcony on the first night, cards, laughter, the three of us making a future out of jokes. It hurts, but it's a clean hurt now, the kind that reminds you you're alive. I wish them well in the same way you wish good weather on a city you moved away from. And I wish me better boundaries, better instincts, better choices, better people. If you asked me whether I'd take that trip again knowing how it ends, I'd say no. I'd save the money, sleep in, take Mia to dinner somewhere local, and tell Lucas I'll catch him next weekend. But I didn't know then. Now I do. And knowing has a strange superpower. It means next time I'll hear the off-key note sooner, I'll follow my own feet out of rooms that feel wrong, and I'll book vacations that don't require me to share the sun. When I got home, the apartment was a crime scene without police tape. Her toothbrush beside mine, twin sneakers by the door, our dumb magnet collection on the fridge smiling like traitors. I put everything that was hers into boxes and taped them like I was sealing something dangerous. I didn't text her. She texted me a novel, apologies, excuses, the word confused doing a lot of heavy lifting. I read it twice and put my phone face down and went for a run until my lungs felt like sandpaper. My mother called because mothers have a radar for when their kids are not fine. I gave her the shortened version and tried not to cry because I'm a grown man who lifts weights and pays taxes. I cried anyway. She said, "Come over," and cooked too much pasta and let me be quiet. My father sat at the table and stared into his coffee like it owed him money. He didn't say "I told you so" because he hadn't told me so. He said, very carefully, "Lucas?" I nodded. He nodded back, like we had confirmed a death. Lucas tried reaching out. Calls. Texts. An email with a subject line so heavy with sincerity it sagged. I didn't answer for a week. Then he showed up at my building because of course he did. I met him outside because the idea of him in my space made my bones ache. He looked wrecked. He said, "I don't expect forgiveness, but I can't stand the idea of you hating me forever." I said, "You'll survive it." He said, "I was jealous." That almost made me laugh because what could he have been jealous of? He gets everything he wants. But that's the thing about Lucas, he wants whatever wants him back. I didn't ask what he meant. I didn't want his math. Mia asked for a conversation too. We met in a public park because four walls might have remembered too much. She told me the story I already knew, one drink, one confessional, one tilt of gravity. She used words like attention and validation and I didn't feel seen. I listened because I always listen, and I realized I could accept her reasons without accepting her back. That was the kindest and cruelest discovery I've ever made. When she asked, "Do you hate me?" I said, "No. But I don't love you in a way that helps either of us anymore." She cried in that small, exhausted way and said, "I'm sorry." I said, "Me too." We walked away without hugging. 4 weeks after, I lived in a kind of low-volume fog. Everything was a little muted, like someone had put felt over the world. Then, slowly, the sound returned. I relearned how to shop for one. I relearned the shape of my evenings. I stopped walking with my head down like there might be a punch coming. Friends brought me out like a piece of furniture that needed rescuing. We watched dumb movies and ate worse pizza and made fun of our own seriousness, which is my favorite sport. "Where are we going?" Lucas asked, like a child caught with a stolen candy bar. "You're going to a different hotel," I said. "Tonight. Mia's coming with me. Tomorrow, she's going to the airport. You're finding someplace else to be." "You can't tell me where to go," he snapped, then immediately looked ashamed. "Sorry. I can tell you where not to be," I said, and looked at Mia. "You're not going to be near me." She nodded, trembling. "I deserve that," she said. For once, I agreed with her. We packed in a quiet that felt alive, like a rash. Mia moved around our room like a ghost trying not to disturb a living person. I put her things in her suitcase like I was boxing up a museum exhibit. She kept trying to talk and stopped because what do you say? "I hurt you" isn't a conversation, it's a knife with punctuation. Lucas stood in his doorway holding his phone like it could testify for him. "I'll book a room in the next town," he said. "I'll be gone in 10 minutes. "Make it 5, I said. At the front desk, the night manager gave us the look people give when they have seen it all and still feel sorry for you. He found Mia a taxi. He didn't ask questions. Maybe he recognized the universal face of a person who just watched their life scream and jump. I watched the tail lights disappear and felt a weird, violent calm. I went back upstairs. Lucas was still in the hall with his bag. He looked 10 years older than he had an hour ago. "I know I can't fix this," he said. But I need you to know I didn't plan it. We were talking. You went to shower and. I didn't shower, I said. He blinked. Right. I mean earlier, she came by to borrow, he gestured vaguely. It doesn't matter. I screwed up. I hate myself for it. Good, I said. Hate is practice. He swallowed. Are we done? We, I said slowly, are done in every way that counts. He nodded. For a second I thought he might hug me because his body did that hopeful twitch it always does before a bro moment. I stepped back and went into my room and closed the door. I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed and watched the sky lighten like it was trying to apologize. At 6, I checked us out. At 7, I was on the ferry alone because Mia had changed her flight and Lucas had evaporated. The water was gray and honest. I stared at it until my eyes burned. Mia wasn't in the bed. The bathroom light was off. I waited for the shower to start. It didn't. I checked the balcony. Empty. I texted her, "Where are you?" The typing bubble flashed, then disappeared. I stared at my reflection in the window and saw a guy who wanted very badly to be wrong. I stepped into the hallway. Lucas's "Do Not Disturb" sign hung on his door. My chest tightened. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. The air felt like it had decided to be heavy gravity. I knocked a third time, louder. Silence. I slid my ear to the wood and heard the faintest sound, a muffled laugh. Mia's. Something hot and cold exploded inside me at the same time. I could barely feel my hands. I knocked like a cop. "Lucas," I said. "Open the door." Silence. Then the sound of soft chaos, sheets whispering, feet hitting carpet, someone cursing under their breath. The click of the lock. The door opened a few inches. Lucas's face appeared in the gap, hair messy, eyes blown wide. He wore a towel around his waist. "Hey," he said, way too casual. "What's up? What do you think?" I said. Every word had teeth. "Move." He didn't. "Bro, don't." I pushed the door. He held it for half a second and then let go. The room smelled like steam and perfume and the kind of guilt that sprays Febreze. Mia was by the window in my t-shirt, hair damp, eyes red. She opened her mouth and, God help me, said, "It's not what it looks like." "Don't," I said. It came out like a growl I didn't know I owned. "Just don't." Lucas stepped in front of me like he was a volunteer fire marshal. "Let me explain." "Explain what?" I said. "How you accidentally tripped and fell into my girlfriend. How your towel accidentally exists. How she's wearing my shirt in your room at 11:30 at night." Mia started crying. She stepped toward me, hand out, and I stepped back because if she touched me I'd crumble. She said, it's complicated." "It's not complicated," I said. "It's disgusting." Lucas looked at the floor like there were answers written on the carpet. "We had a drink," he started. "We talked. One thing led to another. We stopped." "Wow," I said. "Heroic." He flinched. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry. It was a stupid mistake." I laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "That's the thing about mistakes," I said. "You have to do them." Mia said my name like a prayer that had lost its God. "Please," she whispered. "Can we talk in our room?" "Not here." "Pack your stuff," I said. My voice was so calm it scared me. "Both of you." At night, the hotel threw a silent disco, which is just dancing with headphones so you can still hear your thoughts, which I did not want. Lucas was excited because silent discos combine two things he loves, being the center of attention and looking like nobody else in the room. Mia and I picked a corner under a palm tree to watch the chaos. Lucas danced his ass off, sweating, pointing at people like he was directing traffic on a music video set. He kept tugging his headphones off to come over and make us laugh. Tap, joke, laugh, back into the crowd. On one of those passes, he whispered something to Mia that made her clap a hand over her mouth and squeal. I asked, "What?" She said, "Nothing," and shook her head, eyes bright with a secret that didn't involve me. I wish I could tell you that I called it out right there. That I dragged the truth into the light and made it squint. I didn't. I put my headphones back on and pretended the bass could drown out the sound of a door closing. Day 5 began like the brochure: orange juice, overslept alarms, sun pushing the curtains apart. We rented a car and drove to a cove everyone online swore was undiscovered, which is code for bring a crowd. The water was cold enough to make you reset your password. Mia wore that green swimsuit that scrambles my IQ. Lucas made conversation with every person within 50 yards as if they were all future testimonials. He took 1,000,000 photos of us. He took 1,000,000 photos of her. When I went to get snacks, he said, "Get the lemon chips," which is what she always picked. She smiled at him for remembering. He didn't have to remember. The plan that night was simple: fancy dinner, early bed, early ferry the next morning to another island. Mia said her head hurt after the sun. "You guys go," she said. "Bring me dessert." Lucas said he'd stay too if she needed company. The sentence felt like a hand on my throat. "It's fine," Mia said quickly. "I'll nap. You two go bro out." "I can stay," I offered. "We can order room service." Mia shook her head. "You haven't had a real night out with Lucas in forever. Go." We went. The restaurant had candles and gentle music that made my anxiety feel overdressed. Lucas was in his element, tossing compliments at the waitress that should have been corny but somehow weren't. He kept his phone face down on the table. Mine buzzed twice with work emails I ignored. We talked about college, about the time Lucas convinced me to sing karaoke sober, about how adulthood sneaks up on you wearing flip-flops. It was good. It was almost like the earlier tension had been a story I made up. When we got back to the hotel around 11, the hallway was quiet like a stage before the curtain. Our room doors faced each other, mine on the left, Lucas's on the right. "Night, man," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "I'm going to shower and pass out." "Same," I said, and tapped my key card. On day 3, a weird gravity settled in. It started small, Lucas ordering for Mia without asking, like he knew her better than I did. Mia laughing at something he whispered, a quick burst of laughter that she didn't explain. They started taking longer to come back from the bar. "Line was insane," Lucas said, walking in with 2 drinks and a grin too bright. I clocked it and then threw the clock away because I didn't want the time. Later, we went into town to take sunset photos like good tourists. Mia stopped to buy a scarf, and Lucas wrapped it around her head like a movie star. "Look at you, old Hollywood," he said, and shot her with my camera while I was fiddling with settings. It should have been nothing. It should have been cute. It didn't feel like nothing. It felt like a hand on a hot stove you're pretending is off. That night at dinner, the waiter asked, "Together or separate?" Mia laughed and said, "All together. We're a package." Lucas clinked his glass against hers before I could lift mine. My stomach made a noise I'd never heard in nature. I know how paranoid sounds. It sounds like you left your brain in a conspiracy subreddit and came back with a corkboard. I kept telling myself to relax. It was a vacation. My 2 favorite people teasing each other didn't equal betrayal. Mia held my hand on the walk back to the hotel. Lucas walked ahead humming the most annoying song on the planet. I told myself, out loud in the elevator, "You're fine." The elevator did not disagree. On day 4, the weather changed. A storm scraped across the horizon like a bad mood. Everyone stayed poolside anyway because the cocktails were 2 for 1 and nobody respects thunder on vacation. Lucas suggested a swim anyway. Mia said she'd sit it out. I said I'd join him. We did sloppy laps in the rain, laughing like idiots, the pool quiet around us. 5 minutes later I realized Mia wasn't in her chair. Her towel was folded, her sunglasses were gone. Lucas shrugged, spitting water. Probably the bathroom, he said. We finished a lap. She wasn't back. I'll check, I said, and climbed out, dripping on the tiles like a wet dog with questions. I didn't find her in the bathroom or the lobby or the gift shop where everything smelled like sandalwood and regret. I found her by the glass doors that led to the spa. She was walking out, pushing her hair back, looking startled when she saw me. Oh hey, she said, too casual. Got bored. Was checking out the sauna. You hate saunas, I said. Trying new things, she said, and kissed me quickly. She tasted like mint and something careful. Lucas waved from the pool. The storm rolled closer.